JT Miller is getting traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins. At least, that's what the never-ending glut of gossip would lead you to believe. Is there some validity to the loose-lip rumors? We're going to give you our takes right now. It's Beggsy, and it's Bhawan, and you're listening to Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, happy Friday, and thanks for hitting the play button on today's episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, Canucks writer and part-time credentialed media member for Daily Hive Vancouver. And before we dive into the show, we want to thank you for listening to Locked On Canucks, your team every day. Subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. On today's show, we want to get into a jam-packed comment corner. Lots of comments on yesterday's episode.
Oh, they hated you, bro.
I love it. I love it. We're going to get into it.
They hated us. And this is what happens. Trevor's been, making all the titles for the episodes, doing that stuff. One of the most negative people in the city of Vancouver right now, Trevor Beggs. I feel bad for his family. And the people, I think, are understanding that, and they turned on us yesterday, but it's okay. Because, again, love us or hate us, it's what, Trevor? It's what?
It's goal, Canucks goal, bud. That guy over there is Kyle Bhawan. He's going to join me as we get into comment corner later in the show. We also have a jam-packed segment, too. We're going to touch on 3 segments at once. One good thing, what the Canuck, and get the Cam Neely, former Canuck of the Week award winner. But off the hop, you saw it in the title of this episode. It's some JT Miller talk, because there was some gossip floating around, Kyle. Some gossip. And, what's hockey? What's sports? That little man gossip. Frank Saravalli from the Daily Faceoff podcast stirred things up earlier this week. And let me just read the quote from his podcast. He said, quote, "The Penguins were really interested in JT Miller. I think the deal they were talking about involved 2 first-round picks." Again, not necessarily news. We kind of knew that was rumored already, but still an eye popper whenever I read it.
Liar. I shouldn't be calling him a liar. Just going through sources, the rumors. I don't know about this one, man. I don't know about this one. This one sounds a little fishy, and it also sounds a bit as if the hockey world is a little bored right now. Because come on, man, it's been some time, and that just seems like a ridiculous offer. Like in this economy, who's going for that much? That being said, Philip Hronek went for a lot, so yeah, who knows, man?
Yeah, Philip Hronek is worth a first and a second. I know he's a right shot.
That's true.
But I mean, you'd think JT Miller should be worth 2 first-round picks. If that's the case, still hard to believe based on the age, the contract, all that stuff. Let me finish the quote first before we really dive into our takes on this. So Saravalli goes on to say, the Canucks and Penguins even got to the point where they were talking about other pieces that they would move in order to make it happen. I think they got as far deep between the Penguins and Canucks that the Canucks were trying to figure out where they could move Jason Zucker around the trade deadline. That's how deep it got. No one will confirm that, but that's what I believe was one of the pieces moving the other way to make the money work. So a couple things to unpack there. First and foremost, I think you and I touched on in the very first episode where we did Locked On Canucks back on March 1st, how Jason Zucker would probably have to be a piece involved. He had 1 year remaining. He's a UFA this offseason, $5.5 million cap hit. But I think the other key thing here is Saravalli goes on to say that this is basically him, maybe not making it up, but no one confirmed the rumor. So yeah, more or less he might be making it up here, Kyle.
No. I don't think he's making it up. I think maybe someone else kind of made it up. Like they heard something, and then they added a little sauce to it. And then it, goes down the pipeline, and the dude's just working, he's making people talk. That's what we do here, right? We just think about things, we say things, we hear things, we say things, we get the people talking, right? It is what it is. I just, again, think it's kind of impossible to trade a guy like JT Miller. I'm just kind of over it. Like, I can't figure out a way why another team would do it in this economy, especially in a season where JT Miller has been picking it up, and he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a great player. But don't you want him at his quote-unquote best? And he's still like I'm exaggerating, but 20 points below what he did last season. So it's like, okay, now we have like a list of teams or a team just willing to throw everything at the table for him. It's like, come on. What's going on here? Are we just a little bored? I think Pittsburgh is a dramatic team too, dramatic team at this point in their life or career or history point in the NHL because of who they have on their team, the pieces, a lot of power there, right? Crosby, Letang, Malkin. Let's touch on Letang again. He's been going through so much over the last couple of years. There's something else there. They probably all want to buy in and do whatever it takes to win right now. I get it because it's a family there and they've done things in the past, the recent past too. It makes sense to go all in because we're the Pittsburgh Penguins. But again, JT Miller, that's a lot. That's a lot to give up, especially, again, you're bringing up what? 2 first-round picks for an aging team. Yeah, Beggsy, when I say it out loud, you know what I start thinking? I'm like, dude, the Canucks were doing shit like this all the time. And, maybe another team would do it. You're right. You said that before. You said that before to me, And I should be thinking about it too because I've been scared. I've been telling the people, yo, what if the Canucks are like the Cleveland Browns and we're just bad for 20, 30 years, right? Hey, before there was a Cleveland Browns, there was a bad team, you know what I'm saying? So it could happen. Pittsburgh could be making decisions as dumb as the Canucks were, 2 or 3 or 4 years ago? It could happen. You're right. All over the place.
This is why you and I are bros, and because it's like you read my mind here.
Yeah.
I think your take's pretty clear that you don't really think there's much validity to the rumors. You see it being pretty hard to trade JT Miller. And while I agree with you, I do think there's some validity to the rumors because the narrative makes sense, Kyle. The narrative makes sense. Again, if the Canucks were offered 2 first-round picks and Jason Zucker for JT Miller, everything we know about the Canucks is that, and the rumor suggested, they wanted another center in return because if JT Miller is gone and this team's trying to win next year, how are they going to replace that? They've already traded Bo Horvat away. And I think most fans would say you take the 2 first-round picks, get off that contract and run and hide. And I would agree with that, but it's just not what we know and understand about this Canucks management team. And to the other point, why this narrative makes sense, it's what you just said. Pittsburgh is a desperate team right now. They're on the verge of missing the playoffs for the first time in 16 seasons. They just locked up Letang and Malkin to long-term extensions. Crosby still got a few years left where he's looking like an elite producer. This team, I don't think Pittsburgh's going to bottom out. They're either going to be stuck in the mushy middle or they got to add pieces and try to go on one more run with that core. And again, you got 2 guys in charge, Ron Hextall, who's already made some questionable moves, and Brian Burke, who throughout his entire managerial career has been a bold guy. So I think if there is a team that is going to trade assets to get JT Miller, it's the Pittsburgh Penguins. It makes a ton of sense. Again, it makes a ton of sense from what we know from them, not necessarily the trade itself. But
No, like you're putting the pieces together and you're telling yourself, okay, maybe, again, there's a team out there that's that desperate, similar to how desperate the Canucks were to always shake things up and, focus on next year. Makes sense. You by talking about this more and more, and there's more people out there that still continue to talk about these 2 teams in this trade, the more we talk about it out loud, I'm starting to believe there's a chance, man. There's a chance. There's a chance, yo. And
yeah, I go ahead.
No. Like, I was probably just gonna repeat myself, so I'll just throw it back to you. It's just wow. JT Miller, Pittsburgh Penguin, could it happen? 4% chance. It was 0% 3 minutes ago. It's 4% now.
So you're telling me there's a chance, eh?
Yeah.
Again, I believe the smoke around the trade deadline, and Alvin, he beat around the bush in that post-trade deadline press conference when we said we never got a firm offer for JT Miller. That was typical, we never got a pen and paper offer, but we had some pretty deep discussions about it. That's what I read into that. I mean, he could have worded it differently for sure. So I definitely buy the rumors. I buy the smoke. I also think that the Canucks don't want to make themselves worse. As much as we all can see from the outside that this team has been mired in mediocrity for 10 years, just take the first round picks and figure it out. But yeah, it seems like the Canucks do want a bit more of a short-term plan. Like if they are going to get rid of JT Miller, they need another second-line center in the organization.
Well, it's not like, they may be more catering towards their short-term. It's the truth, Next season matters. Next season matters. Next season matters. Next season matters. I know the year before this one, the year before this one, and the year before this one, that was the organizational philosophy too. But for whatever reason, again, next season just feels a little bit different. Am I saying that because I think it's going to equate to success? No, I just feel as if the pressure, I didn't know it could get any higher, but there's like we haven't seen it yet, you know? The city, the people want to talk about the media being negative. It's not about negativity. It's just about timing and emotions and what the city deserves. And after all that's been happening, and we're in year 2 of this regime, and it's pretty clear that the organizational philosophy is the same. It's the same. So that hasn't changed, which is interesting to a lot of us because nothing's worked. But again, it hasn't changed. And I think a lot more of us are not necessarily ready for it, but we're like used to it. And I think this time around we're embracing it. But man, oh man, if October does not work out for this team, it is going to look so empty. So empty in November. And that's when things get a little, I wouldn't say scary, but that's when I think a complete overhaul could happen. So again, if October doesn't work out for this club and we're already out of it, that's when I think a lot of things could happen, and that's some scary stuff. And I'll say it again. We said it earlier this week. There's only one thing to do in the offseason, really. I know we talked about the third-line centers, yet another defenseman, because, again, I think you and I are bought into, like, next season matters. It's sign Pettersson. It's sign Pettersson, because if October doesn't work out, you're going to hear the smoke. And that's the smoke I don't want to start. I don't want to see that fire. For the long-term plan, Pettersson still has to be a part of it, whether next year works out or not. For real.
Yeah, that's a scary look into the future there, Kyle. Let's hope that's not the case. And I think we got to change the topic by getting into one good thing in our next segment here on Locked On Canucks. But before we do that, Kyle, let me tell you why I'm able to put bacon on the table for my family. I used Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't waste your time on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you could do it all with Indeed. Find top talent with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like matching, assessments, and virtual interviews. Do you hate waiting? I do. I'm an impatient guy, man. Come on. I want to see this Canucks team succeed. I'm sick of waiting.
Yeah.
And hey, if you're sick of waiting, you should also use Indeed, because the U.S. data shows that over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. Kyle, you laid it on me yesterday. My wife calls me the Flash for some not good reasons. But one good reason why I get called the Flash, I can relate to Indeed because they got Indeed Instant Match.
Ooh.
Candidates you invite to apply through Instant Match are 3 times more likely to apply to your job than candidates who only see it in search, according to U.S. data. Indeed does the hard hiring work for you. Sponsor a job and we'll match you with the quality candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your job description right when you post. With Indeed, you can start hiring fast, like the Flash. Join 3 million businesses worldwide who use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that meet your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon and start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hey, speaking of Indeed, somebody on Twitter, and again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, Kyle Bhawan, Trevor Beggs. Shout out to the city, shout out to the people sending blessings your way. But someone on Twitter asked me if he thought Hirose, is that how you say the name?
Akito Hirose, I believe.
Okay, there you go. Akito Hirose. Great name. Legendary name. Already. The city loves you. The dude, I think his name's Tanver. He asked me if I thought he was going to be a member of the top 6 going into next season. I told him straight up, I'm at the gym right now. I'm not watching a second of this game. AKA, dude, they're playing the AHL Blackhawks. It's all good. Chill out. Anyways, he asked a question, and I replied with, I'm not watching the game, but a better question is Oliver Ekman-Larsson going to be part of that top 6, whether they buy him or not? You know how we say next season matters, bro? Next season really matters. I don't know if they're going to give a fuck about the pressure if Oliver Ekman-Larsson is still on the roster. He's getting paid $8 million or $7 million, whatever he's getting paid, and he's a healthy scratch for the majority of the season. Because they got to win.
That's it. This is a funny turn, man, because I think we said we were going to start segment 2 here with the one good thing, which was
Yep.
Akito Hirose's performance, and you just get into all of
Dude.
Ekman Larson, and will he be on this blue line because he sucks and he shouldn't be?
Yeah. Well, no, it's like, will
Uh,
he have a job? It's just, well, he'll have a job, but will he be participating in the hours on that job? You know what I'm saying? Or is he going to be milking it? Because this team has to win. And I just looked at that stat just on Twitter, goals per 60 or something. The worst pairs in the league, OEL, Myers at the top of that. And again, next season, for the 6th or 7th time, it matters, and they're going to want to ice their best roster. They're going to want, because the wins matter. I actually think that Aquilini is not going to get in the way of making sure that the highest paid defenseman or one of them on the team is being implemented in the roster. If he's not as good as the other guys, if he's not good as a guy like Hirose, he's not playing.
Yeah, I think there needs to be that competition at training camp. I'm still scared that they're going to try to pigeonhole OEL with Philip Hronek, and that's my huge fear going into next season. I definitely think that should not happen. You know, at I don't know if this is a worst case scenario, but like the worst thing I want to see is probably Ekman Larson and Myers as a third pair. Like they cannot be in your top 4. We've already established that. They need to be
Mm-hmm.
third pairing, or they need to be off this team by whatever that is. Bury them, buy out OEL. I know you can't buy out Myers. Just ship them off to Robodaw Island. I don't know. Maybe someone's going to go to their house in the middle of the night. No, that's a little dark. So yeah, they can't be playing top 4 minutes for this team next season. That much is clear. In terms of Akito Hirose, yeah, he's going to be in the AHL next year. I'm almost certain of that. But the guy's showing some poise, and it's not just the 2 assists he put up last night. He was making plays at both ends of the ice. This kid, when he came into the team at 6'1", 170 pounds, I'm like, geez, how's this guy going to handle the rigors? And yeah, he played an AHL level team last night in the Blackhawks, but through all 3 of his games so far, I've just been a big fan of his positioning. Both on the penalty kill at even strength. He made a great poke check in front of his own net last night to clear the puck away. Had a couple of good neutral zone breakups, along with just creating the offensive zone. So again, he was not just looking good last night. He was arguably, to me, I watched the entire game last night. I thought Akito Hirose and Phil DiGiuseppe were the best Canucks last night.
Boom.
Again, to use John Tortorella's thing, probably not so good for the big guys, but who the F cares at this point in the season anyways.
Yeah, and before you just gave Hirose his due, you just chirped him so hard. You're like, oh yeah, 6'1", 170. It's like, dude, the guy's taller than you. He might weigh more than you too. You know what I'm saying, bro? Just
Proportionally,
come on,
he doesn't.
Come on, man.
He's like 4 inches taller and maybe 5 pounds heavier.
He could
so.
still, he could still kick your ass. He could definitely kick your ass. You could have a hockey stick and he'd probably still kick your ass.
Yeah,
for real.
I'm not doing that. It's not hard to kick.
Have you ever been in a fight before?
Yeah, I've been in a few fights actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been in one since a bar fight at Blarney Stone a few years back, but and that wasn't so much a fight. That one, anyways, that's a story for another episode.
Shout out to
here.
Blarney Stone. No, we got to show Blarney Stone some love. They're not a sponsor of the show, but the city, it matters, man. The people matters. That place is always a good time. I didn't get into a fight at Blarney Stone, but some girl threw a bottle at my head. Not because she was trying to hit me. She was trying to hit the girl that I was talking to, and she missed.
You got a solid noggin, bro. Hey man,
I was bleeding. I was bleeding. I don't have a solid noggin. I was pissed off too. I was rattled, definitely concussed. I was so mad, bro. Anywho, Akito Hirose. Were you gonna say something about the Blarney Stone right there?
Yeah, I was gonna say they should sponsor our next segment. What the Canuck?
They should. Man.
What the Canuck, brought to you unofficially by Blarney Stone, just because we love the Blarney Stone. The Canucks broke a pretty incredible record last night, Kyle. They had a franchise record, 133 straight games without a shutout. That ended in the 134th game last night as Thatcher Demko posted the shutout. It's almost hard to believe. Like we talked about Demko being Vezina worthy, and he's back to that Vezina form since he came back from injury. The dude has 3 career shutouts, and all 3 shutouts came with different head coaches at the helm.
Wow.
It's almost hard to believe, man, to be honest.
The last part of that stat is just so depressing. Damn. It's gray out here, man. I need wins, bro.
Yeah, as soon as I said that, the sun just went down a bit.
Dude, reality, truth, karma, yo. The riot's playing its toll on what we're doing at this point in our lives, and that's not watching meaningful hockey. It's one of those things. Demko, that's a crazy stat. Another crazy stat is Calgary's position in the standings. I know that they're the next opponent. I know some people out there are so stoked because the Canucks, who probably have, I think you brought up the fact that they're pretty close in wins, or if not at par with wins with the Calgary Flames. Maybe they're one behind. Similar roster value. They're doing their things. Calgary has all these OT losses helping them still be in the push. Anywho, a lot of people want the Canucks to spoil this party for the Flames, and I'm just like, why are you putting that energy out there? This city needs the best chance at Connor Bedard. Calgary's already spoiled their chances. If they squeak in, I know that's saying, right, like anything can happen in the dance. There's some truth to that, but it's not going to happen with the Calgary Flames. Not this version of the Calgary Flames. Too many moving pieces. Again, they're really only there because they've lost so many games in overtime. They had that loser point. They're going to spoil it for themselves. They're going to get swept in 4 games. They're going to lose in 5. We don't need... Oh, man.
I completely agree
could just
with
go
you.
on and on and on, man. It's just... Let's just get Connor Bedard somehow.
Yeah, I see the sentiment. Like, Flames are considered the Canucks' biggest rival. And, it's, yeah, it'd be nice to knock him out, but it's not the most important thing right now. The most important thing is that the Canucks and Washington Capitals are now tied with the 8th worst record in the NHL. And the Capitals have a tough schedule. They face 4 teams either in the playoffs or in the playoff hunt over the last 4 games, whereas the Canucks play the Ducks and the Coyotes to finish off the season.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'm pretty worried that the Canucks are going to keep climbing the standings, at least one more spot. I'm pretty worried they're going to finish 9th. So, never mind winning against Calgary. Let's get the best shot at Bedard, who, by the way, has 8 goals and 13 points in 4 playoff games in the WHL playoffs right now.
Yeah.
Single-handedly carrying his team, LeBron James style, possibly to a championship in the WHL. Like, what he's doing is absolutely unbelievable right now.
Yeah, good for him, man.
Did you
West Coast
just run the
bias.
draft lottery there?
I'm gonna do it. And shout out the West Coast bias too. We've been talking a lot about Connor Bedard and the possibility of him playing for the Canucks. I know we mentioned it briefly and in parts, but I'll say it again, man. This guy's from the West Coast too. We got to look out for these guys, for real. West Coast bias. Excuse me. Connor Bedard is that guy, and let's run that draft simulator. Why not? Let's see if we have a chance at getting the hometown kid. Oh, wrong button. Let's get it right there. What are we at? We have a 6% chance. Let's see what we got here. Oh, man.
Ooh,
so close, dude. We got to number got to number 2.
We've run this maybe less than 10 times. I want to say maybe, let's say 8 times since we started the show a month ago. And we've moved up to number 2 twice now. So
that's not good enough. Not good enough. We've been number 2 too many times.
I will take it, man.
No,
I will take it.
Look at this mentality. We'll take it. We'll take being number 2.
We just missed. I don't need to hear it, man. I don't need to hear it. Number 2 is just fine with me.
Anywho, let's cut to break, buddy.
One thing first, because I did promise off the hop that I was going to tell you our Cam Neely former Canuck of the week. So the Calgary Flames and the Canucks are playing on Saturday. Again, go Flames go. I could care less about their playoff odds. Like Kyle said, they've done themselves in. But our Cam Neely former Canuck of the week is a guy who has struggled mightily this season, but came up big against the Winnipeg Jets on Wednesday, and that is Jacob Markstrom. Shout out. He's got that new dad energy going for him. Again, an .891 save percentage on the season. Been pretty brutal. He did lose to the Calgary Flames. Brutal. I'm giving him this award based on one game, and that was that must-win game against the Winnipeg Jets where he out-dueled Connor Hellebuck. Made some massive saves. I watched a good chunk of that game. He was on it. On the second night of back-to-backs, he absolutely won a game that the Flames needed to win to keep their chase alive. So, I hope the go Flames go, but I also hope they burn and crash. But shout out to Jacob Markstrom, who is our Cam Neely former Canuck of the week. Now, Kyle, I know the Canucks make you sad, and you're not really into, the whole NHL playoff push when the Canucks aren't in it. So maybe it's time for you to watch a little NBA. And Kyle, guess what? The NBA playoffs are almost here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scorers and threes drained. Kyle, if you do want to watch a little NBA, there's a big matchup tonight, and it's a potential playoff matchup as well. One that you want to see, I want to see. A little Northern California battle between the Golden State Warriors and the Sacramento Kings. They are slated to face each other if the playoffs were going to start today. Now, there's a good chance, I was reading, that the Kings They could be locked into the third seed in the West permanently, depending on how the Memphis Grizzlies Milwaukee Bucks game goes earlier in the day. So there's a chance it could be resting guys tonight. So if you're into that, maybe you want to put a little extra money on the Warriors. But regardless, if you wanted to, combine your bets, you could do that on FanDuel with the same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/lockedon. That's fanduel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Great job. Great job. Best of luck if you're putting money on the line, sending blessings your way. Use FanDuel and do so responsibly. Locked On Canucks, Kyle Bhawan, Trevor Beggs, living life. I need a sip of water because my throat right now, after
Bong hit Bowen's got the pasties.
Whoa. Yeah. What's that? What's that? Anywho, my favorite part of the show, yes, my favorite part of the show, Comment Corner. Shout out to Sean for giving us that name. Real talk, man. People are locked on, doing great work. We saved the best for last. Always. Let's run it from here, I guess. We got Tim W. We need defense. We can figure out the center part. Dumb article. He's referring to the episode we dropped yesterday where we, talked about possibly trading Brock Besser for some sort of third line center type player / second line center who's not playing well but still is getting paid a lot, and that's the only way we're going to get Brock Besser out of here is by making some sort of hockey trade because he gets paid a lot and he doesn't bring value that's over his potential, So it's a hard contract to trade, okay? It really is. He said dumb article that he chirped us with. He didn't say dumb take. He's like, dumb article. I was like, damn, bro. Like, what does that even mean? And I kind of like it. It was a good chirp.
Yeah, well, it was. I'll get that chirp a 4 out of 10. But because at the end of the day, like Brock Besser is not getting traded for a defenseman. There's a premium place on defensemen and in wingers of all the positions in the NHL.
Tell him, Trevor.
The lowest premium placed. Again, Brock Besser is not getting traded for a defenseman. It's not happening.
Trevor, man. Trevor just wrecks this guy's opinion just like that, dude. That's something else. Rather get a second and a decent prospect for Brock Besser. This comes from Don Cherry the second. Don Cherry.
Oh, there you go, Don Cherry. Listen to the show. It's great.
The second. Okay, I don't really... anything can happen. Maybe not like a premium prospect.
No, not anything can happen. No, Mr. Nice Guy Kyle here. Look, the whole point of that episode yesterday is because you are not trading Brock Besser for a draft pick and a prospect when he makes $6.65 million. If you're going to trade him, there's got to be cap coming back the other way. And I think that was one of the main reasons why we did that yesterday in terms of, third line centers with cap hit, pricey centers, who could be exchanged for Brock Besser, because it's got to be, again, not maybe a dollar for dollar, but pretty damn close to it.
Wow.
I think every player we listed, I think actually there was some around like the $3-ish million range, which it's going to be tough. But there's some players who were definitely making, $5-ish million, a lot closer to what Brock's making. It's got to be a trade like that. If you're trading Brock Besser, there's pretty much no other way it's going to happen.
Trevor, man, you can throw an F-bomb at one of these fans if you want, man. It's all good. We're just fans. We're not reporters. We're not podcasters. We're just fans, dude. Okay, straight up. How about this guy? Tierlock. Great show, guys. Thank you. I'm going to show that to my mom. For real. I'm going to show that to my mom. Great comment. Hell of a shot. Canucks are already over the cap for next season, and you're trying to trade Brock Besser dollar for dollar. Yeah, we had Jacob comment as well, and this is from Hell of a Shot, the original comment. Jacob replied to this. Whoever we trade for Besser has to be a cheaper player that's less skilled, and we have to accept that. I also believe Myers will go. OEL will either be bought out or LTI, which would, that may happen. I don't know. That may happen. And I think when Trevor, I'm not going to justify why we made the episode. It's just, we're just talking, okay? But keep in mind, a big reason why we think the Canucks will have to do something like this to get a player to fill up that gap is because there is a chance that Myers is still a Canuck and they didn't buy out OEL. There's actually a good chance of that. Because Myers is bad. And OEL is bad. And OEL is expensive. Back on Myers. Myers is not worth the money he's getting. Is he going to add a lot of value to a team who gets him? Do people really want to pay or trade for a guy that's going to make that much money to play, on a good team, be your 5-6 defenseman? Maybe at the deadline, but not in the offseason.
Yeah, I would be shocked if Myers was anywhere other than the Canucks roster or the Canucks AHL roster next year. Who's going to trade for a player with basically negative value right now, making $6 million a season? The Canucks are just going to have to eat the last year of that salary, whether it's in the NHL or on the AHL team. OEL is definitely the more interesting conversation right now. We'll definitely dig into that more in the offseason. But yeah, shout out to a comment from Trevor. You know, I like that Trevor energy, and
Dude, we love all the
a big fan
energy.
of the name Trevor and other Trevors out there.
Yo, again, like us or not, disagree with us or agree with us. We don't give a f, yo, for real. We just out here talking Canucks with our people. We had a hell of a shot reply to his own thread, and he mentioned all these players. Ryan Polig. Can you say these names because you're more of the hockey game? Ryan Polig. Am I saying that right? I gotta learn. Noah.
I think it's Ryan Paling or Ryan Poling. I'm actually not quite sure.
Ryan Paling.
Noah Cates, Shane Pinto, Philip Hedl, Jake Evans.
There you go. A bunch of other cheaper centers that could fit that third line center role. Hey, man, maybe that first guy he plays for Pittsburgh, maybe he's part of that JT Miller trade, right? You know what I'm saying, bud? Maybe. You never know.
Yeah,
you never know.
Ryan Poling's barely been an NHLer for both Pittsburgh and Montreal. I'm not a huge fan of the player, to be honest.
Oof.
Jake Evans, I love. Philip Hedl, he's not leaving the Rangers. I'd be shocked. I mean, the Canucks could have had him if they traded JT Miller there, more than a year ago. He was part of that rumored package. I'd be surprised if he leaves the Rangers, that's for sure.
All right, that was Locked On Canucks, Comment Corner. We got to the end of the show. A lot of talk and a lot of hockey talk. Dude, this offseason, we're reading the books. I'm getting back to my old ways, man. For almost 15 years, I had a room painted blue, white, and green. I watched SportsCenter every night and every morning for almost 20 full years. I'm getting back to that, man. I'm getting back to that for the people. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks so much. I said thanks for much. I'm just at a loss for words because of the opportunity that this has given me. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed, yo. And if you're breathing and you had a chance today to make something happen, you're blessed too.
Yeah, Kyle, you're full of love right now, man. Bong hit Bhawan's just dishing it out, buddy. Just dishing it out. But I'll agree with that. And everyone who commented on the last episode and all our other episodes, I love that conversation. Whether we agree or disagree, I do love the Canucks discourse. It's what Kyle and I are doing this year on Locked On Canucks, your team every day. We appreciate you tuning in. Now, if you want to listen to something else, make your second listen game to game. Locked On NHL. Every moment, every performance, every result. Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across Locked On NHL with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NHL, available on YouTube and wherever you get podcasts. Want to wish everyone a happy Easter. I'm Trevor Beggs. He's Kyle Bhawan, and we thank you for listening to this episode of Locked On Canucks.
Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.